What up? How's everybody doing? What Up with Rob and Chris is live. Well, not really, but we're going to be doing a great show today. I got to introduce you to one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. If you don't know Sarah Grace, you all should. Let me tell you. Sarah is an accomplished author. There we go. Spit it out, Chris.
I'm an author too, or an
Yes.
artist too.
Yeah, thank you. She is not only an accomplished author, she is a paramedic, a psychic, and a holistic healer, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Sarah, how are you?
Great, Chris. It's so good to see you. Chris and
You
I used to work together on the ambulance, everybody. We ran those crazy calls together.
We had a little bit of fun, didn't we?
We had a lot of fun. I loved running calls with you.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun. So, Sarah, tell everybody, this is going to be a general question, but we used to run calls together and we'd have some fun.
Mhm.
And I've got so many questions for you that they're all coming through at once. So give me a second because I'm really excited.
No problem. Wherever you want to go with this.
I want to talk about Journey into Grace first. Now,
Look,
folks, the accomplished author. See, I can't talk. I can't say that word
like
apparently.
a King Arthur
Yeah, exactly. You are a queen, right? Exactly.
queen.
But Journey into Grace, you want to talk about an accomplishment, a story that is absolutely mind-blowing about this young lady. You got to check out this book. Sarah, I'm just going to hand the reins over and let you flow.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, so the book is essentially a memoir, but it's also about what I saw while working on the ambulance. So let me just back up. I've been a licensed paramedic in California 18 years now, which is insanity because we're not that old. I ran 911 for 15 years. I started in South Central LA, did Compton Inglewood 2 years, and I did San Jose for a year, and then I was SAC Placer AMR for the rest. And I have been able to see, hear, and feel energy outside of the normal senses since I was 7. Okay, so I was raised in South Dakota on Standing Rock Reservation before anybody cared about the pipeline or anything to do with South Dakota, pre-internet. So I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. And one morning I just wake up and I can see colors around people and like feel their feelings and like hear, things. And I'm a little kid in the middle of nowhere. So I just thought this is how it was. I thought everybody's like this. But I start talking to my family and talking openly about the dead people I see. And they're like, hellfire and brimstone. Don't talk about that. I had a very conservative family. So
Even
they,
back then, even back then, though, I mean, 99.9% of the people didn't talk about anything like that.
oh no, for sure. Like super closeted.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So here I am thinking, and they threatened to send me to a loony bin. So I'm thinking that there's something really mentally wrong with me. And I didn't understand why I couldn't turn it off or make it stop. It was just always there.
Mhm.
And so for me to cope with the toxic shame that I started to develop, I got into drugs and alcohol in college, went off the rails, did all the crazy stuff. And I actually had an overdose, and I had my own near-death experience was where I was given the choice, like, all right, you're running off the rails here, lady. But I was shown in that space that I could potentially come back and help a lot of people and teach a lot of people about this, should I choose to come back. And obviously, I did make that choice to come back. And I was thinking, so funny, I was thinking that since I chose to come back and live, that it would be easy, right? Like it would just be, I still had to like scrape myself off the pavement, and, like figure it out.
Yeah.
So eventually I got myself into EMS and started that. But here's the thing, Chris. So in the EMS community, like I finally felt like I fit in somewhere. And, it's a very alpha, macho, testosterone environment. And I thrived in that. And maybe just a little. Are we compensating for something?
I don't know some of those guys, let me tell you.
I
Anyway.
know, remember?
Oh, yeah.
But for me, I finally fit in somewhere, so I didn't want to start talking about this, what I was seeing and feeling on calls, right? Because I didn't want to be shunned from that community. But on the 911 calls, this energy would just come through me, and it would like, I would know what was going to happen before it did. I became the paramedic who's always there for death. And like active death transition was kind of my wheelhouse. So I could actually watch, the chakra systems release and the soul exit the crown. And we're sitting there doing CPR, and I could watch as they transitioned. Um, and it was actually a SIDS call in Rockland. That was the call that finally did it for me, because firefighter comes out and hot potatoes me this dead kid. And any medic, I was like super senior medic by that point, but still you're holding a dead 3-week old and it's like you just freeze, you vapor lock. And I felt this energy just kind of knock me out of the way and like almost take me over. And we got the baby to the hospital, and baby made it, which is great. But that startled me because I didn't understand what that energy was. And I was cool, like on scene, kind of knowing what was going to happen or doing the basic whatever. But this one startled me into like, all right, I gotta look at what this is. Okay. So I'm very grounded, very practical, not into the super woo woo. Like, I'm like, if it doesn't make sense, like, what's the point? Can I cuss on here?
Go ahead, I can bleep it out.
Okay. Well, I won't. If you have to bleep it, don't worry, I won't. Um, uh, so I decided to start with Reiki. I've been trained in Reiki, shamanism, medical intuition, mediumship, energy healing, holistic healing. And fast forward 8 years, I've written 2 books. Both have been bestsellers in their genre. And essentially, where I do energy healing too. I do energy healing with people all over the world now. And so I work with a lot. It's so funny because I thought I was this weirdo my whole life, but come to find out, there's so many of us. I've had nurses, doctors, cops, firefighters, medics, other paramedics, other surgeons,
Mhm.
and tons of just normal people that are not in our industry that were like, reached out and were like, oh my God, me too. I just didn't want to say anything about it.
I hear
And
you.
so it's been this really beautiful opening and unfolding, and that gets us up to date on where we're at now. So I'm still a medic. I still teach paramedic school every once in a while, but I got a full-time private practice, like helping people feel good.
Now you're still out in Folsom, right?
I am.
Great.
Yes.
Um,
Office is in Folsom, but I do Zoom and phone with people all over the world.
oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I didn't realize you were doing Zoom now. My bad. My fault.
Oh,
I should have
it's
known this.
all good.
What was I thinking? Go figure.
You are forgiven.
Okay, thank you. Now, with your healing, I know that you and I have had some pretty great conversations before you jumped into basically full-time holistic healing. When you finally decided to make that jump, was it that call with that infant, or was that kind of accumulation of everything that you finally said, it's time, it's definitely time to move on?
It was an accumulation of everything, and I drug my feet. So, when you just kind of have this internal knowing that you're supposed to make a change, but you don't want to make a
Oh, yeah.
change 'cause you're comfortable. So it was kind of that. Plus, I was like really scared, and I was identified with like being a paramedic is a powerful position in our
Very.
society. There's a lot of respect. And then energy healing is kind of this fringe thing. And I was like, uh, but I just had this internal like tug, this knowing. And I drug my feet for a year and a half. But what was happening was the calls that I was getting were getting gnarlier and gnarlier
Oh,
and
yeah.
gnarlier. And I was like, if I don't make the change, the universe is going to hand me a call that's so bad I'm forced out. And
Yeah.
I knew it. And so finally, I just took the jump.
I just remember hearing, oh, Sarah's here today. We're all bleep. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
Right.
not that, God, this is going to sound bad, but not that that's a bad thing, but for others it was.
Mhm.
And we all knew that we had to, pull our pants up a little tighter, grab the belt buckle,
It was like
really.
All the newbies love working with me because they knew we were gonna get all the crazy calls.
Oh yeah.
Any major whatever going down in the county, I was the one running it, or at least responding second unit, you know?
No, exactly, exactly. Now, for me and you, we have a pretty fun past with running calls.
Mhm.
Oh yes. Um, you good to go into that call?
Yeah. What do you
Okay.
remember about it?
So,
Listen, I mean, just to let the people who are watching know, for me, it was 15 years total. I don't know how many total years you had. And I saw a lot of evil and a lot of darkness.
oh yeah.
But the most evil person or experience that I ever had in the 911 system was working with you with that
Oh
one
yeah.
call that we went on.
Not me though. I
No, it was
wasn't.
not you. It was what we responded to. And it was a little kid.
Yeah. Still to this day, the scariest thing I have ever seen, and I can still see those eyes. But anyway, let's talk about the story. I want to let you go first, and then I'll interject so we can put it all together. Because you and I, we chatted about it, but we really didn't get very in depth about that call.
So I remember getting responded to a behavioral issue, like a
Mhm.
5150 or an assist. An apartment complex, second floor. We thought it was pretty routine. And what I remember was there was a couple, the family, that had a history with a psych patient. It was a 9-year-old.
Mhm.
And what I remember is you and I are just like all thinking we're going in on a whatever call. And I think I went in first and you were right with me, right behind me. But what I remember is, and I don't remember if it was a boy or a girl.
Really?
Do you remember if it was a boy or all I can
As
see
a
is
boy.
it was the black hair and
Yep.
the black eyes. I remember that, but I couldn't remember the sex when I was thinking about that this morning. But I remember the boy standing. Oh, that's right, because he had two moms.
Yes.
Remember that? And so had the back to us and the black hair. And as soon as I walked in, I just felt evil, like black, dark,
Yes.
evil. And I remember saying something and something about the boy didn't like females or had some sort of issue. And me being the female medic, his head snapped around exorcism style,
Oh
straight
wow.
up, like not even lying. His back is to us and his head flips all the way around and he's got black eyes. And it was
Wow.
just this like seething nastiness that came at us. And I'll never forget because you put your arm in front of me and you pushed me back and you said, "Go outside, Sarah." Do you remember
Yep.
that?
Oh God, yeah. So the first part that I remember that I thought was strange was you were walking up and the police officers were outside.
They were
And
like, "We don't want to deal with this."
that's when I got the first inclination of what's going on.
Mhm.
And I kind of looked at them, and you had just stepped inside, and I came around and I couldn't hear what you said, but all I know is you stepped in the door and it was almost like you pushed back.
Mhm.
Because I remember seeing that. And then I was like, whoa, what's going on? And the feeling in there was heavy, just
Mhm.
heavy, like something was trying to pull you down.
Mhm.
And when we walked in and you said something, and all when his head snapped around, I tried to do that, by the way, because I wanted to see if I could debunk what had happened and
Mhm.
what did. And I'll tell you what, there is no way inhumanly possible for your head to snap around that hard, that fast without you being in extreme pain. There's no way.
No, that was
Um,
not a human
no,
experience.
no, not at all. And then I remember him saying something to his mom, and it was very a lot of exploratives. And I don't know exactly what I said, how I said, but I remember grabbing you and saying, "Get out,"
Mhm.
and me just stepping in front of you through
Mhm.
him. And like I said, I still have those eyes.
Mhm.
I can still see in the dark. And him and I talked, and it wasn't talking to a child.
Mhm.
There, it was not talking to a child at all. It was talking to, best way that I can put it, being, because it wasn't human, it wasn't anything. And then all of a sudden, sitting there talking to him, his mom walked away because she went to go get something. And the little sister came up and grabbed him by the hand, and he shook, and his eyes were brown.
Oh, see, I didn't see that because I was outside.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
and his voice, do you remember when we got outside and you looked at me because his voice was so much higher?
Mhm.
And you're like, what's going on? But wow, I still get chills to this day in regards to that call. It's amazing the different accounts, because I've always wanted to talk to you about this. So I think this is the perfect format, at least for us, to
Mhm.
talk about this and to see what we're feeling, how we're feeling, and what was going through our head at the time.
Mhm.
Pretty cool, but
It was incredible, and it's like again, that was the single most um evil is that word, but that it was just so dark, and it was not a little boy that we
yeah.
were dealing with. It was not. And we had both been in and had quite a few years under our belt by that point. So we'd seen a lot of
Oh yeah.
evil things and dark things. But that went down in my 911 career as the single most, like the single darkest
Yeah.
entity or experience that I ever had. And to the fact it was in a 9-year-old kid is like, whew, you know?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
I remember us being in the ambulance after that, kind of like both of us were just like staring around, like,
We didn't
like,
really, we didn't
what?
really talk about it. We basically said those eyes. Cause I mean, I remember us
Uh,
just the eyes, the eyes,
just
the eyes.
black,
Yeah.
black,
Yeah. Black as night. I mean, just
like
unbelievable.
no whites. It
Yes.
was just all black. Remember that?
Yep. No, totally. I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Ever.
Um, Now let's go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Hmm.
You're doing some pretty darn good things with your holistic healing.
Thank you.
Your podcasts, how are those
Mhm.
coming?
Good. It's picking back up now after quarantine.
Good,
Everybody was kind of leveled and everything was weird in 2020, but now things are starting to resurface. So good.
good, good, good. Um, with your podcast, can you kind of let everybody know if there's a specific day they're going to be out, or you know, um,
Right now, what I'm doing a lot of and focusing on is building up my videos,
okay,
and
yeah, I get it.
yeah, talking about that. So you can find a lot of videos, Sarah K. Grace, on YouTube. And
Okay,
what I'm talking about, like for me, we're all our own greatest teachers or healers. It's just that when we're in it, like we get stuck. And so a lot of this stuff is really obvious to me because I've been able to see energy all most of my life. um I like to just break it down in like really understandable ways so people can be like, I could do that, right? Because externally in our society is so chaotic right now, and there's so many people that are thirsting for something more soulful, right? More
yes,
connected, something that's real or authentic, not like a synthesized, drug or pharmaceutical or whatever. It's just we're wanting more authentic connection and organic. So that I talk a lot about that kind of stuff and different ways that you can heal yourself and different ways that you can like connect to your power and like get back to feeling good, because people have just been feeling so terrible for so long, and it's
yeah,
just people are just ready.
I agree. I agree. Um, Now I want to go into your second book. I I'm a horrible person. I didn't realize that it was out already, or else I would have gotten it. So
No,
that's
it's all good.
bad on me.
No, it's all good. So this is holistic PTSD recovery for first responders, military, and their families. And I'm actually updating the content right now anyway. So it's
Okay.
perfect that you didn't get the first book. And what it is we are first responders and military, like first responders in specific is what I can speak to, but we're a certain breed. Like we're just a different kind of person. We tend to be really aggressive. We tend to be very vulgar, kind of the salt of the earth, like things,
A little
um,
salty. Yeah, just a wee bit.
well salty. And what we find clinically fascinating, most people would like run away from. And so we have an epidemic of suicide and depression and PTSD right now. We have 25 to 35 suicides a day. And fortunately, it's finally starting to open where people are starting to talk about it. What I'm offering is there's 20 different modalities listed, that in holistic or energetic ways that you can help yourself like get out of the darkness. And so there's things like EMDR or brain spotting or trauma release exercises or infrared sauna. There's a whole bunch of things that I put in there, and I give the website information or where to find that, so
Okay.
that people feel like they have some sort of access to some sort of tools. Now, why I wrote it specifically for us is because most first responders won't listen to therapists or other people who haven't been there, right?
We
But
won't.
because I've been there and I understand what it's like when you see it and when you smell it and when it's so crazy, it like everything goes slow
Yeah.
motion and I get it. I've been there. And so hopefully we'll be able to kind of bridge and they can take that information and finally apply it.
I like it. I like it. You bring up, kind of got to go sideways here for a second. You bring up the smells, and a lot of people don't realize that for us, a lot of times, if we've been somewhere or done something, sometimes the smell will trigger a memory for us. And a lot of people don't realize sometimes those memories, we'll sit there and go, wow, can't believe I totally remember this whole scene from A to double Z.
Mhm.
And I, you bring that up, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, she's so right. Just
Mhm.
the smells, the seeing, the sights, and how the picture images come into your head. At least
Oh God,
for me.
totally.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think a lot of times people think PTSD comes from like a single event, which it can in some people, but because we have an archetype, and that archetype is we're very type A, we're very aggressive, and we tend to come from really like intense backgrounds, right? And so we have this personality that is more attuned to being able to deal with this. That said, over time, accumulation over time, it's like this slow, steady, and you don't necessarily know which one it's going to be or what it's going to be, right? But that causes the PTSD. But the triggers are oftentimes not just the event itself, but more often to deal with the sensory data or information. So for me, it's the screaming mothers. That was that particular scream,
Oh, I can hear
that
it. I can hear it.
that was the one for me. And then gangrene,
Oh,
and dead bodies that have been sitting there for a couple of weeks, that smell. So there's like certain things, and when we get that, either the whiff or the remembrance of that, it's exactly that. It actually triggers the neurochemistry and how
oh yeah.
everything is frozen in there in the pathways, and then it's just like boom, it's like it's present day, you know. And so it's incredible, but fortunately, like I said, we're starting to talk about it more openly, and people are starting to say like, okay, we're letting down the machismo a little bit to be able to go like, all right, I gotta do something besides drink, because
Yeah.
that's the number one coping mechanism reported is drinking. So
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Um,
guess what number two was in all the people I interviewed for the second book? The number one coping mechanism is drinking. Number two is
smoking.
overtime, working
What?
overtime, working overtime.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Solve it, right?
I can totally, totally see that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense when you think of it, because
Yeah.
you're so used to being in it, in that energy and in that persona, that if you go home, that's when the stuff starts to come out. So you just go
Yep.
back to work.
Because you're slowing down, your mind's slowing down. So therefore it's like, I'm coming, here I come. Ah, jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that now that I think about it. Oh my God, so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got my mind just turning. So I'm good. I'm glad you did that, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, so let's talk about the film. and the TV industry. I know that you have done some advising, and there's some good things that I'm not sure, but I want to say there's some good things ahead coming.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. So I've been approached by 3 different reality TV producers at this point, and I turned them all down, 3, because it was circusy, it was campy, it was
Uh,
not to me, it's all about staying in integrity and alignment. And I really feel like we are at this precipice or this turning point where the mainstream consciousness is ready to open to energetics, holistic, intuition, all of these types of things. And if we come in some cheesy way, it's going to negate the potency and the power. And I just will not do that. I will not do that. And so I'm holding out and in integrity. My vision is I just feel like I'm going to have my own show in some way where we can go in and like triage the people. It's like being a medic, go in, triage their life, but
yeah,
then start to introduce to the mainstream consciousness all of the different healing modalities, because most people don't realize, just like Western medicine has a lot of branches, holistic healing and energy healing also have a lot of branches. So if you're not familiar with what those are, you wouldn't understand, like, oh, well, my body hurts, so which one of these should I do? Or my mind, I can't stop my mind and I'm in a dark place, which one should I do? Or people get so stuck in their emotions and their trauma, that so there's specific things. So
right.
I feel like that's the way that we're going to go. The movie, there was talk of movie being made about the first book, and that kind of got shelved right now because collectively what's happening, there's such a shift in media, right?
Yeah.
And so I've kind of just surrendered right now. I know that I will be utilizing media in some capacity to get the awareness into the mainstream consciousness. And I would love to go forward with independent media sources who are super open to holistic and like to put
Yeah.
out positive content, right?
No,
And
exactly.
so we're in this kind of shifting and juxtaposition right now. So, but yeah, it's totally coming, and I'm excited.
I can't
Like,
wait.
it's just time, Chris. It's just time. And it all makes sense, looking back at over all these years and all the struggles and all the confusion about all of it, like it all makes sense now.
Yeah, you gotta have a little more confusion before it takes the right path.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like we're in, is just kind of this compression where it's like we're, doing some of it's that alignment, right? And
Mhm.
so just in the alignment space, it's the surrendering, not trying to force it, not trying to make it happen, not trying to, but just like listening and continuing to do my own healing work and taking care of myself and just trusting the process of it,
And
which for us paramedics can be like, "Ugh, come on, let's do this.
boy, is that not the truth? Oh, wait a minute. I got to take care of myself now. Wait a minute. What's
Mhm.
wrong? What? No,
Mhm.
I totally hear you. Well, Sarah, I got to tell you, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on. What up with Rob and Chris? I, like always, I love talking to you. Hey, folks, please, 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 if you get an opportunity, check out Journey into Grace. Um, I
So
do
you can
know,
get, I'm sorry to interrupt you, you can get both books on Amazon. So Journey into Grace, Tales of a Psychic Paramedic, and Holistic PTSD Recovery for First Responders, Military, and Their Families. Both available on Amazon, and you can find out more information about me on my website at sarahkgrace.com, SARAHK grace.com.
thank you. I'm going to put it down there or over there or up there somewhere. I'll make sure that all that information gets out. Okay.
Thank you. It's so good to see you.
You
I'm so
too.
proud of you. I just love you. It's so great to stay connected after all these years.
I agree. I agree. Um, I do have to say that I know we're ending, but it always feels like it's always a new beginning with you. And I would highly recommend everybody go out, find her somehow, some way.
Thank you, Chris.
Not a
Love
problem.
you.
I love
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
What up?